If you enjoy stepping into the past, remember to like and subscribe. Now, tell me who should travel next and in what year. It's morning, but not the kind you know. The air tastes of dry earth and crushed stone. You smell the dust more than anything. It stings your nostrils like a sharp breath of wind biting through wool. Around you, the forum's hard surfaces radiate the heat already building beneath the thin layer of cloud-filtered sky. The sharp clangs and shouts mix with the shuffle of sandals and the steady plod of horses' hooves on stone. You're a man of 38, displaced across centuries into the heart of Rome. The year 100 CE, the world you've known, with its endless screens and digital babble, is gone. Instead, a relentless swarm of voices pulls at you like the tide, and all you can hear is the babble of urgent questions, requests, and commands. You're a call center worker. But here, calls don't come through wires or Wi-Fi. Instead, they arrive as frantic couriers, scribbled notes, and winged rumors that demand instant answers. You don't have a headset, but the role feels oddly familiar. Tracking messages, answering inquiries, calming tensions, all in the cacophony of a bustling public space where senators, merchants, and craftsmen collide. Today, you've taken to mapping out routes, timing the arrival of messengers, and organizing information like a conductor managing a chaotic orchestra. Your engineer's mind sharpens as you build a mental network, a system within the madness. You see patterns in the flow of noise and movement. Who speaks first? Who listens? Who changes direction? Rome's messages are like signals bouncing between walls, footsteps echoing off marble and brick, faster than rumors and twice as demanding. You recognize the sound of a senator's voice, deep and commanding above others. They want news from distant legions, updates on grain shipments, and the latest whispers of political intrigues. To you, their urgency resembles a client waiting for a report, an order to be fulfilled. You channel your years managing information back home, devising a chain of reliable messengers whose deliveries ripple through the forum like a pulse. You begin to keep simple ledgers, scratched on wax tablets borrowed from a scribe's stall, recording who spoke when, the root of each message, the person responsible for all the lack of digital screens. Your memory and system become your tools, an invisible network born from necessity. The heat climbs, sweat beads on your skin. Passing vendors wave their arms, shouting prices, oranges rolled in dust and packed into woven baskets. The sharp aroma of roasted chickpeas rises from a nearby stall, while the stench of refuse clings weakly to distant corners. Conversations burst around you in Latin, thick and urgent. Your tongue stumbles, but your brain races, trying to reconcile the urgency here with habits formed in a cubicle, surrounded by fluorescent light. Your modern assumptions about speed and efficiency ripple oddly in this ancient marketplace. People and messages are flesh and smoke, much slower and yet somehow steadier. You feel the first prick of fatigue, the pressure of constant noise under a relentless sun, unfamiliar smells filling your lungs, new muscles engaged in standing, walking, talking more than you ever have. Yet beneath it all, there's a strange satisfaction. Survival through adaptation, through creating order in chaos. Tomorrow, you will push further, refining your messenger network, understanding the hidden politics that shape those urgent calls. The week closes without fanfare. You fold yourself into the rhythm of the forum's dust and shouts. Summer heat and stone hold you in their sharp clasp as Rome spins slowly forward, and you wonder quietly how many messages in history will ever have reached their destination on time, and how many rest lost in silence, like dust upon stone. The heat pressing down, thick and unyielding, while dust spirals in unpredictable eddies around your feet. The smell of baked earth mingles with the sharp tang of sweat and the faint metallic hints of horses' tack. You had thought last week the chaos was noise. This week, it overwhelms. The relentless pace of the city hits a new level, and you find yourself caught in the whirl of rush and urgency. The clatter of hooves draws closer, and bodies jostle as the chariots slice through crowds, carrying senators racing between meetings. You're still the same man from another century, you. The call center worker now, expert messenger liaison, feeling as disoriented as the crowds you navigate. The sudden screech of wheels reminds you sharply how different communication means are here. No phones, no instant messages, just speed, stamina, and voices raised over the clamor. You grasp quickly that adapting means understanding these rhythms, timing message deliveries with the arrival of these chariots. The sound is both an alarm and a signal. Now, you schedule your messengers with precise awareness of when senators will be on the move. Your skill in systems and structuring workflows spills over into anticipating chaos, somehow turning it into order. By midday, you adjust to the daylight's assault, the way it makes details sharper, but shadows disappear, forcing you to trust your growing instincts more than sight alone. Your wrists ache from constant writing on the wax tablets you've policed into your toolkit anachronistic tools, but essential to bridge the gaps between speaker and listener. You catch yourself tracking message patterns, noticing how some senators demand quicker dispatch, their voices low but insistent, commanding the night runners even as they leave the forum. Yet, the heat distorts time. Hours blend together as the city's pulse rises and falls under the sun. You sense the exhaustion in your limbs, but also a growing resilience. as if the physical strain carves out space in your thinking, a sharper focus wrapped in muscle memory. The smell of roasting meat near a busy food stall lingers as a small mercy in the relentless heat, and you instinctively grab a handful of dried figs, trying to fuel the day while your mind processes the flood of requests, the crossroads of delivery points. The challenge extends beyond managing messages. It seeps into relationships. You recognize faces you trust as reliable runners, people who, like you, move between spheres of power and street life. Your identity as a trained call center professional doesn't translate fully, but your drive to connect, to manage information swiftly and accurately, earns nods of respect. Yet these Romans don't see it as technology. They see it as skill, sweat, and loyalty. It's a humbling lesson, a reminder that even in another time, patience and trust are currencies no less valuable than knowledge. The sun dips low by week's end, but the heat seems to linger in your bones. You wonder if your body will ever untangle from this relentless pace, or if adaptation means becoming part of the forum's ceaseless rhythm learning, not just to survive, but to move inside the world like a message on the wind, urgent and unrelenting. The day's weight settles slowly into your skin, and as you close your eyes, you feel the undeniable truth. Time here is not measured by clocks or apps, but by the pause between chariot wheels and the echo of voices fading into dust. With dense streams of feet, worn leather sandals, bare toes pressed against cracked stones, and hurried steps pushing past, brushing and bumping into you with the unstoppable flow of the city's restless heartbeat. You feel the sting where the cloak rubs, a reminder that every comfort from your own world has become a minor torment here. This second week has slid you deeper into the daily grind. The forum's noise remains relentless, layered now with sharper accents of urgency and whispered politics. Your mind, trained in systems and response, moves faster than your feet, calculating the most efficient routes through the crowded alleys and open plazas. It's a far cry from a modern call center cubicle, but the challenge is the same. Organize information, manage expectations, deliver swiftly. Your role as a messenger coordinator settles into focus. Senators demand instant updates, but instant means hours, not seconds. Here, a frustrating difference your modern experience highlights daily. You sketch out timing maps on a scrap of wax tablet, positioning trusted runners as nodes within the city's maze-human routers, weaving between merchant stalls, bathing pools, and Senate chambers. Your engineering mind visualizes this as a network, and with each completed message, you refine routes, strengthen connections. Efficiency is your way to carve a place in this ancient world teeming with unpredictability. The scents shift unpredictably. A breeze brings the sweet, fermented smell of stacked figs near the market. A few steps later, the acrid bite of burnt oil from a nearby lamp vendor stings your nostrils. The close crush of people adds a tactile pressure against your sides, mixing with the sharp scrape of wood carts and the occasional bark of a trader. You notice how your sense of spatial awareness sharpens. Missing a turn isn't just a delay. It's lost time pressed heavier on senators, anxiously waiting news of distant legions or grain shipments. Your modern assumptions wobble on precarious ground here. You long for the security of a direct line of communication, a simple ledger system, a streamlined inbox. Instead, you rely on faces, trust in feet pounding uneven stones, and your growing legs. The cloak's rough scratch becomes as much a companion as a nuisance. It marks your changing shape, from outsider to someone slowly woven into the fabric of this city, a human call center, mediating the swirl of history. Long days pool into one another by week's end. The sun sets behind terracotta roofs, cooling the stones beneath your tired feet. You reflect on the fatigue curling through your body and mind, steady but honest. Adapting means surrendering impatience quietly, learning to listen not just for answers, but for rhythms, the pulse of footsteps, the murmur of deals struck, the slow turning of power that shifts as surely as the Roman sun. With every sharp sting of cloak and every crowded street beneath your soles, you feel that fate here, as anywhere else, is woven less from answers delivered swiftly and more from the endless act of waiting to be heard. The clattering wooden carts and the rhythmic pounding of feet on worn cobbles. You are here again, deep in the heart of Rome. But this week feels heavier, more chaotic than the last. The relentless heat has soaked through your tunic, and the sweat runs in sharp rivulets down your back, clinging your skin to rough wool. Your breath is shallow, quick a reaction to the suffocating noise, and sent that swirl around every corner. Men and women push past in hurried clusters, their wares spilling scents and colors into the tight streets. Bundles of herbs crushed into dust, glinting fish scales, bright spices that bite your nostrils. The stench of refuse lingers just beyond the food stalls, a reminder of the city's constant grind. You catch the subtle shift in the rhythm of chatter. Urgent queries from senators craving updates on far-flung legions. Traders demanding news of grain shipments to prevent shortages. Whispers about the latest intrigues twisting through the Senate's marble halls. As a call center worker stranded in this strange time, your modern instincts kick in despite exhaustion. Organize, prioritize, dispatch. Your hands move rapidly, sketching out new routes on a wax tablet, coordinating riders who dart like shadows through the crowd, bridging distances with messages scrawled in hurried Latin. The challenge is not just the volume of communication, but its fragility. Messages can be lost in the crush, overwritten by a louder voice or a diverted messenger. You find yourself studying faces as closely as words, noting who moves with reliability, whose steps falter. Your background in systems thinking becomes your lifeline. Each messenger is a node in a fragile network. Fail one link, and the whole message might shatter. Despite all this, your modern assumptions quietly resist adaptation. You want efficiency measured in seconds, a perfect system where errors are impossible. Here, speed battles with chance and chaos. You learn to rely on patience as a tool, matching the unpredictable pace of Roman life rather than fighting it outright. This unpredictability sharpens your senses. The clang of a dropped cup, the sudden hush among the crowd, even the faint call of a distant horn becomes signals you interpret against the roaring backdrop. As the week wears on, the physical toll gnaws at you. Your muscles ache from standing long hours, your skin rough with dust, your throat dry from shouting over the crowd. Yet, beneath the sweat-soaked fatigue, a slow clarity settles. You are not just surviving in a lost age. You are weaving yourself into this city's vast, tangled conversation. The pulse of Rome thrums through your veins, a living, breathing network of voices and needs. As dusk descends and smoke thins with cooler air, you find yourself lingering in that fragile pause between messages, breathing in the mingled scents of sweat and smoke. Fatigue knits itself into a steady rhythm, a quiet rhythm of resilience. You realize that here, as anywhere, survival may not be about control, but the subtle art of listening, adjusting, and moving forward amid the clamor. The bare feet, cool but unyielding, as voices ripple around you, low, tense, deliberate. The murmurs of senators echo through the shadowed colonnades, their heavy cloaks brushing quietly against the pillars, every movement measured, controlled. It's the 5th week now, deep inside the tumult of Rome in 100 CE, and a new sensation presses on you. Fear, subtle but insistent, wrapping around your thoughts like a tightening noose. You are still the same man displaced from a world of fast connections and digital certainty. Now, a call center worker navigating human networks face to face, body to body, breath to breath. But here, in the shadows of these marble giants, the stakes feel different. The messages you manage carry weight beyond simple information. They ripple into power, influence, and sometimes danger. The senators' whispered commands come with the undercurrent of mistrust and suspicion that you hadn't anticipated. Your lists and wax tablets, your maps of messenger routes, are no longer just tools of efficiency. They are currency in a game where silence and secrecy bear shadows. Your modern ways system analyses, prioritizing messages by urgency, streamlining Florentine strengths, they stumble against Rome's subtleties. You notice how quickly messages get tangled in disguise and half-truths, how what you thought was routine demands recalibration. You feel eyes watching, weighing your every move. To survive, your logic must flex. The maze you navigate is no longer just physical routes, but social ones, shifting alliances and cautious glances that speak volumes without sound. The heat is less oppressive this week, but tension folds over the shifting patterns of the forum like a dense fog. The clatter of bronze sandals on stone marks the passage of vested senators flanked by slaves, human contrasts of power and resistance. Their presence is suffocating like the marble itself, cold and immense, reminding you how small and exposed you are in comparison. Still, your role as mediator expands. You time messenger departures with ceremonies and political assemblies, predicting moments when news will carry the most weight or risk. Amid the weight of powdery dust and faint incense from ritual offerings, your fingers tremble slightly as you seal a message destined for the imperator's envoy. This job, stripped of digital anonymity, feels personal. Every delivery a tether in a web more fragile than any network back home. The thought of failure creeps in quietly, a shadow beneath your steady facade. As evening falls, the sun's dying rays turning marble into glowing embers, fatigue settles into your bones. Heavy but awake, you consider fear not as paralyzing, but as a keen edge sharpening your sense of this strange world's rhythm. In this place, where information breathes like a living thing, volatile, dangerous, you realize the survival you sought stretches beyond skill or speed. It threads through caution, awareness, and a growing intuition for when silence speaks louder than any message carried. The faint aroma of beeswax and ink hovers in the small, dim room where you find yourself surrounded by scribes and clerks, their faces intent and quiet. The dust motes catch stray sunlight filtering through narrow windows, lingering thick in the air with the scent of aged paper and sweat. This week, the world of information has taken on a new texture, a tactile, tangled web of scrolls, voices, and shadowed corners where power quietly shifts. You are still the man from another time, a call center worker transposed into a city, a millennium, and more in the past. But the noise of the forum has sharpened into detail here. Inside these chambers, where official messages are copied, encrypted in wax seals, and dispatched by hand. The senators you serve crave instant updates, but instant now wears the form of layered bureaucracy and trusted runners. Your engineering mind, trained to streamline processes and optimize systems, is the key that opens a door here. You study the rhythms of this workflow, who copies messages best, which courier can outrun gossip, which oils preserve scrolls in the summer heat. your modern assumptions chafe against ancient practices. There is no simple inbox, no digital archive. You are swimming through living documents carried on backs and whispered in dark halls. Yet your habit of cataloging and prioritizing proves invaluable. You construct schedules, assign tasks with precision, and begin keeping a ledger, not only of messages, but of relationships. You sense that trust will become as vital as speed, and that survival depends on knowing when to press and when to wait. The scent of hot wax mingles with damp stone and parchment as you watch a young scribe's fingers tremble with fatigue. You recall similar exhaustion from your old job, the invisible strain behind the bright screens and endless notifications. Here, it feels heavier, more immediate. Each message sent or delayed can shift futures, even as you manage routes and relay instructions. You feel the fragile pulse of power and secrecy surrounding you. Behind the rustling toga and recorded words lie ambitions, fears, and shifting allegiances, writ small. Your tools are simple graphite for marking tablets, strings for sealing scrolls, but in your hands, they become instruments of connection. You realize that your knowledge isn't just technical, it's human. Mapping and managing information flows is also about reading faces, gestures, fleeting expressions. You note the falter of a footstep, the quick glance exchanged beneath lowered lids. Your adaptation becomes less about the messages and more about the invisible threads linking sender and receiver. As the week closes, your muscles ache and your breath deepens in the cooling dusk. You carry the delicate weight of trust heavier now, aware that time here moves differently measured, not in seconds or minutes, but in gestures and silence. The labor of information feels ancient and immediate, a reminder that even across centuries, the pulse of communication beats persistently, imperfect, urgent, and utterly human. The fingers are soft and accustomed only to tapping keyboards, carry now the scratch and roughness of handling fragile scrolls. Bits of parchment curl lightly under your touch, a tension between delicate and resilient, the fine grains scraping under your nails. Around you, the murmured rustle of turning pages and the steady scratch of reed pens fill the air, quiet sounds contrasting sharply with the clamorous streets outside. This is your new workspace in Rome, 100 CE. The sun filters weakly through narrow shutters, casting long shadows on walls lined with rows of carefully stacked scrolls. You are no longer just a displaced call center worker. Now you are learning the art of managing messages face to face, embedding your modern skills into the rhythm of an ancient bureaucracy. Your hands work at once awkward and attentive, translating your knowledge of systems into the tactile world of quills and wax seals. You notice how your engineering instincts patterns, order, efficiency allow you to innovate quietly. you develop a system for tracking messages. Simple ledgers with neat columns mark dates, priorities, and the runners assigned. This system sets you apart, earning wary nods from the scribes and couriers. A network forming beneath the rustle of scrolls and fold of togas. Your modern assumptions about instant response still twitch beneath the surface, frustrated by the slow pace of hand delivery and the fragile nature of communication. But you begin to calibrate patience as a new metric of success. Each scroll carries more than words. It carries weight. News of grain shortages from Sicily, troop movements along the Danube, political intrigues brewing in the Senate. These are the currents you navigate daily. The wet heat sticks to your skin, and your throat often aches from the pressure of speaking above the hum of the forum's lively debates. Your role as intermediary grows. You learn which senators value speed and which prefer discretion, which couriers know the city's back alleys best, and which falter under pressure. Your roughened fingers mark the passage of time. Every scrape of reed pen and fold of papyrus, a small victory against oblivion in a world without digital archives. You sense connections deepening between sender and receiver, between message and messenger, and understand that the flow of information here is as much about trust and timing as about data itself. It's a subtle web you weave, a bridge between modern precision and ancient uncertainty. By the week's end, your muscles ache and your mind buzzes with the complexity of it all. You are no longer an outsider observing from a distance, but becoming part of a living system, raw and imperfect. The tests of adaptation stretch your patience, resilience, and humility in equal measure as you run your fingers over the next scroll, worn and fragile. You realize that survival here is about more than just managing tasks. It's learning the language of risk and patience, written not in code, but in ink and silence. The sharp, bitter tang of olive oil coats your tongue as you dip a piece of warm, dense bread, the crust slightly cracked, the crumbs still steaming from the oven. Around you, the hum of the forum softens in this brief pause, replaced by the quiet scrape of feet on stone and the occasional rustle of a toga. The scent of freshly baked grain lingers faintly, mingling with the earthy aroma of pressed olives and the faint coppery hint of aged amphory. It is a small comfort in a world ruled by haste and voices, a moment of stillness amid the relentless demands of Rome's swirling messenger network. You are now 8 weeks deep into this strange journey, a call center worker uprooted into the dense tapestry of ancient Rome. The sharp contrasts between your former world of screens and instant replies, and this tactile realm of scrolls and human couriers shape your every move. Your hands bear the marks of your new trade roughened by papyrus, ink stained and stained again by olives pressed fresh in the morning sun. But it is in these small, grounding rituals, the taste of food, the sturdiness of bread, that you find footholds amid the swirl of togas and scrolls. Your engineering background continues to mold your survival here. You map the flow of messages with growing precision, balancing urgency against trust. Senators demand updates on faraway campaigns. Traders need news of grain shipments. Undercurrents of political intrigue ripple through whispers and sealed letters. Your methodical approach crafts order out of noise as you assign trusted runners, ledger in hand, timing deliveries for maximum impact with the rhythms of the city's daily pulse. Yet you catch yourself battling the frustration of imperfect systems, always waiting, adapting to delays that would have once seemed intolerable. The street heat clings to your skin, but the sharp taste of olive oil and the warmth of bread remind you that survival is also about moments of nourishment, both physical and mental. Markets hum nearby, their scents a complex tapestry of herbs, leather, and smoked fish. Your senses sharpen not just to the demands of the job, but to the rhythms of the city itself. You note the pauses between voices, the quick exchanges of glances, the way trust is measured in gesture as much as in sealed wax. By week's end, you carry a growing awareness of your place in this ancient network, less a stranger and more a vital node. The fatigue settling into your muscles is honest, not just physical, but the weight of constant alertness and adaptation. Yet, as you bite into another piece of bread, olive oil catching the sunlight like liquid gold, you recognize something vital. That survival here is stitched together in these small acts of care, the simple pleasures that anchor a day filled with urgency and silence alike. It's a lesson deeper than any system, a reminder that even history's grand stories unfold in the quiet moments between rushes of noise. The murmur of whispered Latin slips between the stone pillars of the Senate's outer courtyard, mixing with the faint scratch of stylus against wax and the distant clatter of shoes on marble. You feel the sharp, unexpected chill of shadow under the heavy cloak draped over your shoulders, the rough fabric strangely comforting in the thick midday heat. Around you, the city hums with life-distant carts rumbling through narrow streets, vendors shouting over the din. But here, in this place of power and secrets, sound shrinks to nearly breathless murmurs. This is week 9, and the weight of information has taken on new forms. Bonds forged in secrecy, trust awarded in silent glances. You are still the man pulled from another age, a call center worker stranded in a world where messages carry lives, alliances, and ambitions, not just data points. In these shadowed halls, your modern skills become tools not only of order, but of subtle diplomacy. You map the flow of information with growing care, not just tracking couriers or scheduling dispatches, but learning to listen between words, to read hesitation and urgency alike. Your ledger fills with names and notes trusted runners, cautious senators, quiet observers, each link in a fragile living network. Your modern assumptions flicker uneasily here. Instant replies are impossible. Information is currency measured in layers of discretion and timing. You find that survival depends not just on efficiency, but on the delicate balance of loyalty and discretion. As you exchange notes with a courier, fingers brushing briefly over shared tablets, a new understanding dawns. Knowledge and silence travel hand in hand. The Senate's business is as much about shadows as speech, and you are learning the language of whispers. The scent of beeswax mingles with the faint perfume of fresh laurel wreaths used in ceremonies beyond these walls. You notice how each courier carries not only messages, but the burden of expectation, the weight of secrets potentially dangerous if mishandled. Your engineering mind, trained to build and repair systems, now practices patience and intuition. You measure risk not in percentages, but in glances, and weigh urgency against trust. Fatigue settles deep in your bones as the sun sinks behind the Capitoline, the marble cooling to pale blue in twilight. These weeks are shaping you, not just into a messenger expert, but into a participant in a fragile, complex dance. As you prepare another scroll for dispatch, the sharp lines between duty and danger blur. You realize that in this ancient city, survival is less about control and more about connection, how trust forms quietly, almost invisibly, in the spaces between words and beneath the weight of shared burdens. The sharpness where you crouch, watchful. The muted clatter of distant footsteps echoes faintly, blending with the occasional murmur of voices betraying their owners' hurried breaths. The air is cool here, a sudden relief from the sun-baked piazza, but heavy with the earthy smell of decayed leaves pressed against cracked walls. This week, a flicker of triumph pulses quietly beneath the day's chaos as you prepare to deliver news through Rome's labyrinthine backstreets. A courier threading secrets past senses dulled by dust and noise. You are the man displaced from a world of glowing screens, now a messenger expert for the volatile needs of senators craving instant updates. Your hands, toughened by wax tablets and worn scrolls, fold a tightly sealed message, ink still fresh on fragile papyrus. Every knot, every step planned by your methodical mind carries weight here. Your modern skills, systematic reasoning, mapping flows, anticipating delays, have transformed the chaotic surge of information into a web you begin to command. This mission, rooted through hidden alleys less traveled, tests everything you've learned. The city swells beyond these shadows, a noisy theater of merchants, slaves, and officials. The clamor of markets rumbles in the distance, a river of sound beneath the stone arches. But here, in these narrow passages, sound contracts, each footstep and breath sharper, more intimate. You navigate by memory and instinct, weaving through piles of refuse and worn thresholds stained with the years. The scent of mold and faint traces of wine seep around the corners, rooting you in this labyrinth of history and power. Your modern assumptions falter as you adjust to the physicality of this world. No digital pulse can quicken the pace beyond human limits. Yet, your strategy channeling trusted runners, where noise might scatter less reliable messengers sharpens. You recognize faces along the route who nod in recognition. Allies in a network forged not just by orders, but by shared vigilance. The sealed message you carry is more than words. It is a bridge over centuries, a fragile lifeline in a city where time bends to the weight of ambition and necessity. When finally you pass the scroll to the awaiting Handa, Senator's confidential courier, cloaked in shadow, the rush of accomplishment surges quietly through your veins. No flash of light or instant confirmation, just the steady heartbeat of history turning. The sweat dries on your brow, muscles tense and relax as you step back into the fading daylight. Your mind, honed through weeks of adaptation, counts this moment as victory not for speed, but for control, finding order and trust amid the unsparing chaos. As dusk settles over Rome, stone cool beneath fading heat, you feel the blend of exhaustion and clarity. The pulse of survival in this ancient city unfolds less in grand gestures than in these fleeting connections. You wonder how many messages in history have traveled these same narrow paths, borne by hands like yours, uncertain but determined, carrying not just news, but the fragile weight of lives yet to be shaped, mud and blooming reeds. The air is crisp, a quiet moment before the city stirs, soft footsteps echoing on damp cobblestones along the riverbank. You inhale deeply, the sharp freshness filling your lungs, a strange kind of sanctuary after weeks in the furnace of Rome's bustling forums and tight alleyways. This morning holds a fragile peace, a quiet glory you hadn't expected to find in a world so foreign. You are still the call center worker transplanted from a future shaped by screens and instant communication, now woven into Rome's ancient tapestry. 11 weeks have passed in this city where messages travel not by wire, but by foot, voice, and parchment. You watch as early light gilds the pale stone bridges arching over the sluggish river, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of feet and cartwheels. Your engineering mind, once tracing circuits and debugging code, now maps routes through human networks' messengers, weaving through the awakening city. carrying news for senators desperate for every advantage. Your fingers brush the worn edge of a wax tablet, notes jotted in haste the night before. These scribbles, old-fashioned and tactile, are the tools by which you navigate growing trust and complexity. Your modern assumptions about speed and certainty have tempered into a different kind of efficiency one, shaped by observation, patience, and an ever-deepening sense of timing. You have learned to read the rhythms of Rome's daily life, when markets swell with noise, when Senate meetings break into whispered counsel, when a messenger must wait in shadowed streets before slipping unseen. The smell of baking bread drifts faintly on a breeze from the nearby oven, mingling with the earthy scent of moss clinging to river stones. Vendors begin setting out their stalls, fresh fish glinting on crushed ice, bundles of herbs tied with string, olives piled high in woven baskets. You feel a connection growing, subtle but real, as if the city's heartbeat is now partly yours. The cacophony of voices preparing for the day ahead feels less alien, more like the hum of a system you've come to understand and influence. Walking along the river's edge, the cool stone beneath your sandals grounds you. You pause to touch the weathered surface of a column beside the water, rough with age and history. The weeks of adaptation, the fatigue gnawing quietly at your limbs, all fold into this small moment of belonging. Messages dispatched, alliances formed, secrets carried. They are no longer just tasks, but threads in a fabric you help weave. As the sun climbs and shadows retreat, you carry this fragile piece within you. The ancient city doesn't slow for your fatigue or your questions. Yet, here by the water's edge, you sense your place part outsider, part participant, and the quiet glory of survival through connection, through learning to move within a world built on slow, deliberate trust, with the faint scent of burning wick and spilled wine. You feel the warmth draw low and close in the small back room, where messages are gathered, folded, and sealed under tired fingers. The muffled laughter of fellow couriers bubbles from the corridor outside, a fragile relief from the long days and whispered secrets that fill the city's heart. This week, the tactile world of Rome grows smaller, closer, the kind of closeness born from shared burdens and slowly deepening trust. You are the man displaced from a future of countless screens, now living as a messenger expert amid senators who hunger for swift news in a city ruled by patience and politics. Your modern profession grounds you in order and calculation. Yet here that precision must bend to human frailty. Candlelight reveals the weariness and resolve in faces around you messengers who measure their steps in trust as much as in distance. You too feel this shift, your ledger growing thick, not just with roots and times, but with names etched into memory, people to count on. The low murmur of hushed voices, the faint scrape of sandals on stone, the crackle of oil-fed flames become as familiar as the ringing phones you once answered. You sense your role transforming, not just keeper of information, but a vital node linking lives, ambitions, and fears. The networks you build rely on more than schedules. They rest on quiet loyalties formed in moments stolen between duty and exhaustion. Your fingers, roughened from parchment and sealing wax, trace the edges of a scroll ready for dispatch. The evening air is laced with the savory scent of roasted herbs, and faint smoke drifting from kitchen fires beyond the walls. You feel the pulse of the city slowing as night deepens the busy streets, now whispers. Shadows clutching corners where deals and secrets pass hand to hand. Here, your engineering mind learns the rhythm of patience, the necessary acceptance that data can never be perfect or immediate in this world. Tired muscles ease slightly in the company of others, sharing this fragile task. Muffled laughter breaks through fatigue, a reminder of human connection amid the weight of information, carried through marble halls and dusty streets. The subtle exchange of trust grows like a quiet current beneath work and waiting. As this week closes, you carry a new understanding. Survival here depends not only on skills or speed, but on the steady forging of bonds beneath flickering lamps. In a city where messages travel by foot and faith, it is these shadowed moments of shared burden and quiet camaraderie that begin to weave you into Rome's vast, living story. In the shadow of the Senate House, the air hums softly with whispered salutations, careful bows, and the rustling of finely folded togas brushing against marble-each gesture, thick with a language of hierarchy and obligation. You feel the weight of unseen eyes, measuring, categorizing, marking your place in this unspoken order. This is the 13th week, and the complexities of Rome's social architecture press on you as tangibly as the rough stone beneath your sandals. You are the man from another Timon, expert in information flow, stranded here among senators and slaves alike, threading messages through circuits of power older and more complex than any network you have known. Your modern skills lend clarity to the chaos, yet they also set you apart, a strange presence under watchful gazes and cautious smiles. Every bow exchanged, every measured glance toward senators reminds you that in Rome, information is lodged not only in words, but in the careful choreography of respect and deference. Your days unfold amid this delicate dance. Behind the scrolls sealed with wax lie human currents, fears, loyalties, ambitions, all carried silently by couriers, weaving through forums, porticos, and shadowed courtyards. You map their routes with increasing precision, but now you measure more than distance. You must read the subtle shifts in posture, the tightening of lips, the brief flicker of recognition in a senator's eyes approaching his peers. This hierarchy is invisible yet palpable, shaping how messages travel and whose voices carry weight. The heat of midday presses on your skin, mixed with the faint perfume of myrrh burned in distant temples, an incense both sacred and political. You feel the burden of many unseen expectations. Messages must arrive promptly, yet never so forward as to disrupt the delicate order. Your ledger holds more than logistical details now. It carries the invisible lines of favor and influence you learn to navigate. Your engineering mind adapts not just to systems, but to social signals, each gesture a node in the ever-shifting network of Rome's power. By evening, as shadows stretch long across the forum, fatigue settles in your limbs, but your awareness sharpens. The city's grandeur and restraint press upon you, teaching that survival here is less about control and more about recognizing the danza choreography defined by every bow, every glance. You realize that in this ancient world, the weight of hierarchy is heavy and constant, worn quietly like a garment that shapes not only how you move, but how you are seen. The soft warmth of afternoon sunlight strikes the pale marble columns, igniting their surfaces with fleeting bands of gold and amber. You pause beneath their towering sweep, the rough stone cool and solid beneath your fingertips, grounding you in this ancient city of relentless motion and sound. Around you, the forum hums, a tapestry of voices, sandals scraping stone, merchants shouting prices. Yet, in this moment, the light plays quietly, offering unexpected beauty amid the relentless rush. This is week 14, and you find yourself noticing details previously lost beneath urgency. The glint of sun on carved capitals, the faint hum of cicadas in the heat, the whisper of silk sliding over stone. You are the man from another world, a call center worker by trade, caught now in the pulse of 100 CE Rome, a messenger expert navigating whispers, scrolls, and the shifting demands of senators craving immediate news. Your modern skills twist and fold into this place, your mind scheming routes and timely deliveries. As you track couriers threading through alleyways and open spaces alike. But here, amid sunlit columns and dust motes dancing in shafts of light, you learn that survival demands more than speed and logic. The air carries the subtle scent of pressed olives and distant wood smoke, layered beneath the sharp tang of sweat mixed with leather and parchment. You run your hands over crumpled notes, stained with the dust and ink of countless messages. Each message is a thread, fragile yet vital, connecting figures of power with the sprawling city's unseen rhythms. You realize how much your own presence shapes the flow, A misstep, a delay, a misread look can redirect currents of influence and rumor. Your assumed control sometimes falters here. Messages take on lives of their own, shaped by distrust and the weight of tradition. Yet, in the slow dance of delivery, you sense the threads of trust stretch taut but unbreakable. Faces around you, the sharp eyes of a trusted courier, the weary smile of a scribe become anchors in the chaos. They remind you that success is as much about connection and adaptation as it is about efficiency. As shadows lengthen, the flickering sunlight fades, but the memory lingers. Your breath slows, your muscles sigh with fatigue, earned not only by steps, but by the constant calculation of risks carried beneath robes and carved marble. You think how, in this ancient world, beauty often flickers quietly between urgency and patience. A reminder that even in a city of power and haste, survival demands moments of attention, presence, and grace. Brush against your fingertips as you lean into the quiet sweat of the evening. The air inside the small chamber holds a steady warmth, mixed faintly with the scent of burned olive oil from a nearby lamp and the earthy tang of unglazed pottery. Outside, the clatter of sandals on stone fades into muted murmurs behind thick walls built to hold secrets and voices alike. This week, the familiarity of this enclosed space shelter amid the sprawling city of Rome begins to feel like something more, a fragile sense of belonging born from the steady rhythm of routine and shared purpose. You are still the man caught between worlds, a call center worker transplanted into 100 CE, adapting to a life where messages travel by foot and word, where trust is an invisible currency harder to earn than any promotion back home. Your fingers, calloused from handling fragile scrolls and sealing wax, rest lightly on wax tablets scattered across a rough wooden table. Here, amid this collection of couriers and scribes, your modern skills breathe new life into the ancient system, a network calibrated by patience, timing, and the intricate dance of human relationships. Outside, the scents of roast lamb and fresh bread drift through open windows, mingling with the faint spice of herbs drying from bundles hung near the rafters. You sense the pulse of life beyond these stone walls, the vast city spinning relentlessly with its markets, politics, and whispers. Yet within this small room, your role sharpens. Every carefully tracked message, every trusted courier assigned becomes a thread, weaving you deeper into Rome's living fabric. The contrast with your old life is stark. There are no emails sent with a click, no instant acknowledgements. Instead, every message depends on faces learned by sight, voices remembered, fatigue endured. Your modern mindset structured, precise sometimes chafes against the slow human tempo. But here, amid clay and stone, you find yourself learning new measures of success. Not speed alone, but reliability and subtlety. As night settles and oil lamps flicker lower, laughter briefly rises, a fragile bond among those who carry Rome's secrets through shadowed streets and sunlit forums. The warmth of the room wraps around you, not unlike the cloak you now wear more comfortably, shielding you from the city's harsh light and suspicion. You feel a gradual easing of the alien burden, a growing awareness that survival is not only about managing information, but about finding place and purpose in a world vast and ancient beyond any screen or spreadsheet. This week closes with exhaustion and quiet satisfaction intertwined. The journey continues not just across streets and messages, but toward an unexpected home shaped by stone, sweat, and human connection. Stained with ink and dust. Outside, the distant murmur of senators and messengers ebbs and flows like a restless tide. But here, in this silent pocket of the city, the weight of knowledge feels heavy, both a gift and a burden. It is the 16th week, and the conflict inside you sharpens. Torn between the power your modern understanding grants and the silence demanded by this ancient world's fragile balance. You are a man displaced, a call center worker suddenly woven into the fabric of Rome, where information flows not through electric currents, but through human breath and uncertain trust. Your skills in organizing, analyzing, and delivering messages have become indispensable, carving a niche among senators craving swift updates. Yet, with every secret mapped and delivery rooted, you grapple with a gnawing tension. The knowledge you carry could change or unravel far more than you see. Your modern instincts urge transparency and speed. Roman customs demand patience, discretion, silence. The room carries the faint scent of burned herbs, a comforting ritual against the weight of unseen eyes and whispered fears. Your fingers trail over notes hastily jotted on wax tablets, details of troop movements, grain shipments delayed, political whispers, all data points that mean survival or ruin. You imagine the possibilities modern tools might offer: instant sharing, verification, correction. But here, every message risks being intercepted, altered, or misunderstood. Your mindset, rooted in systems and certainty, is tested against the realities of a world ruled by human error and intention. Outside, the chatter rises, a courier passing, cloaked figures moving swiftly through narrow streets, alliances forming and fracturing like fragile glass. Your presence in this web feels both essential and precarious. Some senators regard your knowledge with suspicion, others with reliance tempered by wariness. Your modern assumptions sometimes falter, confronting the deeply human complexities of power, loyalty, and survival. As fatigue settles deep into your bones, you lean back against the cool stone, the candlelight flickering low. The weight of silence presses as much as the weight of information. You realize that true strength in this place may not be in what you know or share, but in when you hold back, balancing the urge to act with the wisdom to wait. In Rome, as in any time, survival is a dance between light and shadow, knowledge and discretion, urgency and patience. The sharp, acrid tang of spilled wine drips faintly from the rough stone floor-dark stains, seeping into crevices worn smooth by centuries of sandals. The low murmur of senators drifts through the colonnade, a steady backdrop of measured voices and shifting shadows. The scent of aged marble and burning torches hangs thick as you stand in the Senate's shadow, the weight of unspoken consequences pressing down with every breath. This week, guilt tastes bitterer than any wine you've known, sharp and raw, settling deep as you wrestle not just with messages, but with the consequences they carry. You are the man displaced from a world of instant answers, brought here to navigate a realm where information is a weapon and silence a shield. Your call center skills streamlining flow, prioritizing urgency once shaped your efficiency. Now they stir a storm within as the truths you deliver slip into the hands of men who shape history in whispers and conquest. A troops movement delayed, a grain shipment rerouted, a secret revealed in haystall trace back to your decisions, your trust in couriers and coded wax seals. The weight is heavier than any spreadsheet error. It is the burden of lives folded into each scroll. Your fingers linger over a wax tablet inscribed that morning, words blurred by sweat and haste. Visibility is no comfort here. Power is veiled in ritual and suspicion. You observe senators' glances, guarded yet hungry, sensing the invisible currents behind their calm. Your modern assumptions about transparency clash with the Roman art of discretion. Messages are not just data, they are alliances and wounds, threads that can heal or unravel the fragile fabric of the Republic. Outside, the early evening brings the sharp scent of cooling stone and sandal dust as the city quiets, but tension remains thick. You feel the tremor of fear and responsibility coil beneath your skin, a silence that roars louder than any forum. Your role grows paradoxical, both essential and precarious, as you balance the hunger for knowledge with the cost of truth. Mistakes here ripple wide beyond metrics, touching blood and honor. As the flickering torchlight dances low, you sense fatigue blend with a chilling clarity. Guilt is no alien visitor, but a patient shadow, woven into adaptation and survival. The year turns quietly onward, and you carry knowledge sharpened by that weight, a reminder that in Rome, as in any age, the true cost of information is measured not in speed, but in the depths where silence meets consequence. the trembling shadows against the rough stone walls, their glow barely holding back the darkness gathering in the Senate's quiet corners. The scent of burning resin mingles with the damp chill curling through the open arches as muted voices rise in cautious debate low. Urgent, threaded with the weight of unspoken consequences, you feel the grainy texture of the marble beneath your fingertips, the cold settling into your skin like an insistent reminder. Here, decisions are whispered, but resonate loudly, shaping futures in silence. You are the man caught between eras, a call center worker pressed into service amid the velvet shadows of Rome's elite. Your skills in managing information flow, honed by systems and expectations of speed, have found uneasy purchase in this world of secrecy and ritual. Each message you help dispatch during these twilight hours is a thread woven into a web of power and risk, carried by runners moving swiftly, yet cautiously, beneath torchlit colonnades and narrow alleyways. Your modern assumptions clash with the slow cadence of Roman politics, where patience masks tension and silence often speaks louder than speech. The room breathes with the faint hiss of wax melting, parchment shifting, and cautious footsteps padding the floor. You watch the sharp glints of eyes catching flickering light, noting the subtle exchange of glances, trust, measured and recalibrated with every shadow and gesture. Every scroll you handle is a weighty fragment of intrigue, news of distant legions, grain shipments arriving too late, whispered plots threading through marble halls. Your engineer's mind traces these connections, plotting routes and timings, but now tempered by uncertainty and the human cost of error. Outside, the chill deepens, carrying the faint echo of late-night conversations blending into Rome's restless streets. You sense the unspoken balancing act, to inform but not inflame, to act but not betray. The tension knots quietly in your chest, a reminder that knowledge is both shield and blade here. Fatigue settles alongside a piercing clarity. Survival in this ancient world lies not in command, but in reading between the flickers, in understanding the delicate dance of trust and discretion beneath the torchlight's glow. As the night stretches on, you carry the silent weight of countless whispers, knowing that each fragment of information could alter the course of history. In this shadowed realm, where messages flutter like fragile flames, you learn that power often lives in the quietest moments, whispered beneath breath and flickering light. The hum of distant voices blends with the sharp clatter of hooves and sandals on stone. A restless city breathing beneath the pale morning sun. The faint warmth of the early light touches your skin, though a subtle heaviness hangs in the air, the weight of choices made and unmade threading through every hurried messenger and whispered word. It is week 19, and today you stand silently in the shadow of unseen consequences, feeling the enormity of action. You are the man tethered between two worlds, a call center worker by trade, thrust into the swirling complexity of ancient Rome, where messages carry influence through flesh and whispers rather than signals and screens. Your modern skills of systematizing information and managing flow have found unexpected traction here. Yet, with each decision, each message dispatched or withheld, you sense responsibility deepening. This city moves not on certainty, but on calculated risks and shifting trust, and you hold a fragile key. Across your fingers, the worn edges of a copied scroll feel heavier now. The contents speak of troop movements delayed, grain shipments rationed, alliances tested in secret councils. Your careful calculations meet a wall of uncertainty. Modern assumptions about transparency and immediacy falter against Rome's riddles of power and patience. You gauge routes favored by trusted runners, timing deliveries to avoid eyes too keen and ears too hungry. The city's rhythm pulses with attention you map silently, aware that every choice swells outward beyond your sight, altering fates and fortunes. The dry breeze carries the faint aroma of pressed olives and wood smoke from market stalls, life pressing insistently forward amid fragile politics. You notice the quick glances exchanged among couriers, the half-smiles masking suspicion or alliance. Your role demands more than efficiency. It requires a nuanced reading of human currents, an instinct for when to push and when to hold back. The weight of action presses down, as invisible and crushing as Rome's towering marble. Evening stretches long across the rooftops, cooling stones beneath weary feet. As shadows deepen, exhaustion weaves with resolve. You feel the quiet truth settling in. Survival in this time is not only about skills or knowledge, but about bearing the heavy cost of choice. The streets below murmur and darken, secrets carried in breath and footfall, and you, standing still for a moment, know that every messenger step is a step walked between light and shadow, consequence and silence, the finger poised above coarse papyrus. Your fingers tremble slightly, roughened from days of handling scrolls and sealing messages, but now weighted by more than fatigue, a pulse of uncertainty. The fragile gravity of what this note carries. Outside, a distant murmur of footsteps and whispered counsel fades beneath the high stone arches. But here, the world narrows to the flickering flame, and the steady breath caught between action and hesitation. It is the 20th week, and the moment presses heavy. A trembling hand sending a message that could shift the course of fate. You are the man displaced from a realm of instant communication, thrust into the deliberate, weighted rhythms of Rome's political heart. Your modern skills systematic, precise, tuned to data and efficiency serve as lifelines, among whispers and shadows. Yet, even your trained mind wrestles with the fragile balance of knowledge and consequence. The words you set to papyrus do not simply travel, they carry lives, decisions, and the unseen chain of cause and effect coursing beneath stone and opinion. The room fills with the scent of burnt oil lamps and stale air, the faint scratch of your nib marking time against the weight of history. Outside, the steady tap-tap of approaching feet hints at the courier, awaiting the next whisper from your hand. You weigh the urgency tangled with risk. Will this message hold steady or unravel under scrutiny? Your modern assumptions about control and accuracy falter here against human error and intrigue. Yet, your experience guides careful selection. Trusted messengers, secret routes, timed departures, calibrated to the pulse of the city. The flickering shadows warp familiar shapes, and you catch the briefest hesitation in your own motion, a breath held tight, a moment's doubt. The weight of unintended consequences presses deep. This message could hasten alliances or fracture trust, shift power quietly or spark discord. As the quill curls the final stroke, your body bears the tension, a silent witness to a choice no longer theoretical but irrevocable. Night gathers beyond the chamber's small window, cool air filtering through stone and dust. Your hand steadies, the message folded and sealed, a fragile vessel set upon the uncertain tide of Rome's fate. Fatigue settles in your bones, but beneath it, a tempered resolve. You realize survival here is a delicate negotiation, not only with others, but within yourself, balancing knowledge and silence, action and restraint, in a world where every step may alter the course of history unseen. Herbs and freshly ground pepper drifts from a nearby market stall, mingling with the dust stirred by sandals on stone. The crowded forum spreads before you, thick with faces and voices shouts clipped by urgent whispers, every gesture charged with rising tension. Around towering pillars and beneath fluttering banners, murmurings swell toward a swell of movement, as if the city itself exhales and shifts. This is week 21, and echoes of change ripple through open plazas and secret chambers alike, carrying both promise and unease in their wake. You are the man out of time, a call center worker, caught suddenly in this sprawling, living organism of ancient Rome. Your modern mind, trained to seek patterns and streamline communication, acts as a rare echo in the clamor. With each carefully dispatched message, each route plotted under your watchful eye, you map connection points amid chaos. Yet even as your system takes shape, irregularities surface, unexpected delays, hurried exchanges veiled in uncertainty, murmurs of unrest threading through the Senate and beyond. Your hands, steady despite fatigue, fold yet another wax-sealed scroll destined for a senator's eager grasp. The rhythm of your work is punctuated by the scents of pressed olives and roasting meats from nearby stalls. The roiling heat, softened by a breeze, slipping down narrow alleys. You catch the worn faces of couriers pausing for breath, eyes sharp and wary. The city's undercurrents are running strong political alliances, fraying, rumors gaining momentum, the unsteady balance of power trembling like leaves in a storm. Your modern assumptions about control, clear data, predictable outcomes brush uneasily against this ancient reality. Here, information flows not just through words, but through silent glances, timed hesitations, the subtle weighting of trust and fear. You find yourself navigating not only routes and schedules, but webs of influence that shift faster than any message can travel. As evening falls, the forum quiets, but the tension thickens. A low drumbeat beneath the fading light. You feel the weight of this moment settling deeper into your bones. Not only the physical exhaustion from days spent on your feet, but the growing awareness that survival depends on embracing uncertainty, on listening as much as speaking. The echoes of change are everywhere, and you stand at the nexus, bearing their fragile pulse, knowing each message could be a spark, each choice a turning. The sun filters through narrow streets. Your feet stir dust that hangs like a fine mist over the uneven cobblestones. Familiar yet strange, after weeks spent tracing the city's endless maze. The chatter of merchants, the rattle of carts, voices raised, an ambient hum you once found overwhelming, now oddly comforting. It is the 22nd week, and you walk these Roman streets with a curious twist of pride and doubt, an inseparable mix folded into your every step. You are still the man out of time, a call center worker navigating an ancient world where messages move at the pace of feet and whispers. Your role has crept beyond mere messenger coordinator. You have become a crucial thread in Rome's dense web of information. Your modern instincts sharpen routes and schedules, but the city demands more, a dance with trust, a constant balancing of certainty and uncertainty. Here, your successes are measured less by speed and more by the subtle signs, a nod of respect, a messenger's quick smile that you've earned your place. The sun beats down, warming the worn stone of the forum walls, the air thick with the scent of baking bread and spiced oils from street vendors. Your hands, calloused yet steady, clutch a set of scrolls bound with wax seals, each bearing news with the potential to shift power and alliances, yet alongside the satisfaction of mastery. A gnawing doubt lodges quietly half-formed questions about the consequences of your choices. The unseen ripple spun from a delivered message or a silent delay. Your modern assumptions about control, precision, and the ease of data sometimes falter in this smoky, crowded theater of power. You have learned that information here is fluid, a living thing shaped by human fears and ambitions. The relationships you forge with couriers, senators, and scribes become as vital as any technical skill. You move carefully, aware that Rome's tides can lift or drown without warning. As shadows lengthen, the first cool breezes weave through the labyrinthine streets, carrying with them the distant clang of closing market stalls and the sizzle of evening meals. You feel the deep fatigue gather, mingled with a tentative belonging. Pride whispers in the steady rhythm of your steps. Doubt questions in the pause between thoughts. Somewhere in this tension, you realize survival is as much about learning to inhabit uncertainty as mastering any skill. And for now, roam its noise, its dust. Its restless spirit feels oddly like home, through the heavy air of the crowded marketplace. Voices clash and blend, carving patterns of haggling, suspicion, and urgent whispers as faces shift like shadows in the afternoon light. Beneath the gleaming marbles and worn stone steps, the undercurrents of the city pulse unevenly, darkening friendships and deepening old wounds. It is the 23rd week, and you move through familiar streets now tinted by secrets not yet spoken aloud. You are still the man out of time, once a call center worker, comfortable with data and immediate answers, now entangled in the intangible currents of ancient power. Your modern skills of systematizing information and managing flows remain vital. Yet, they reveal new complexities as relationships fracture beneath concealed truths. Couriers glance sideways, alliances waver, and trusted runners wear new caution in their steps. The messages you coordinate carry weight far beyond their words, shaping loyalties and stirring suspicions faster than any scroll can travel. The faint click of sealing wax echoes as you close another letter, its edges stiff with the imprint of a senator's signet. Around you, the market hums, a swirl of scents. Freshly baked bread, damp leather, boiled olives mingling with the acrid smoke of open fires. Yet beneath these familiar rhythms, you sense a palpable tension, a dance of glances and silences, where old friends test boundaries and old debts cast long shadows. Your modern assumptions about transparency and clarity prove fragile here. In Rome, trust is layered, often cloaked beneath hesitation and unspoken fears. You track patterns of behavior as much as patterns of movement, learning when to send a message and when to hold it back. You watch as faces once open shift subtly, their expressions guarded, twitching with unspoken truths. Your role now extends beyond coordination. You are an interpreter of the unvoiced, a guardian of fragile bonds in a city where secrets are as powerful as swords. Night deepens, and the glow from oil lamps bleeds into the thickening darkness, casting tall shadows that merge with whispered rumors. Fatigue weighs on your limbs, but your mind sharpens, weaving the scattered threads of loyalty and betrayal into a fragile map. You grasp that survival here depends on more than skill. It depends on reading the invisible weave of trust and suspicion that shapes Rome itself. And in those shifting shadows, you feel the quiet burden of knowing how much a single message might unravel or bind together the lives threading through this ancient, restless city. The step on the cracked stones sends a slight tremor through your aching limbs muscles, taut from long hours spent weaving messages. Navigating Rome's maze of power and intrigue, the city breathes around you in a chaotic pulse of voices, hurried footsteps, and the hollow clatter of cart wheels on stone. It is the 24th week, and beneath the surface of this relentless motion, you feel a heavy weight settling deep, not just in your bones, but in the quiet corners of your soul. You are still the man out of time, a call center worker, thrust into an ancient world where information travels by human breath, footfall, and trusting gazes. Your skills in systematizing and prioritizing remain your compass. Yet, with every message dispatched, the burden grows more tangible. Each scroll carried, each whispered update delivered, carries consequences twisting far beyond the immediate moment. You carry the unseen weight of lives shaped by your decisions, the grain shipments that feed or fail, the troop movements that protect or expose, the quiet alliances forged or broken in flickering torchlight. Your hands, roughened by papyrus and wax seals, tremble slightly as you prepare yet another message, a fragile bundle tied tight against unraveling. The familiar smells of roasted herbs and fresh bread drift from nearby stalls, a sharp contrast to the bitter exhaustion settling into your muscles and mind. The city's noise seems distant, muted beneath a steady hum of weariness and resolve. You notice how your modern assumptions of control, of instant clarity, strain against the slow, uncertain rhythms of this ancient world, where patience is often the costliest currency. Around you, faces blur with fatigue and strained concentration. You recognize the silent exchanges, loyalty weighed against fear, trust tempered by suspicion. Your role goes beyond managing information. It becomes a test of judgment and humanity, a constant negotiation between what is necessary and what may never be spoken aloud. As twilight deepens and shadows stretch across the stone, you pause to steady your breath. The ache in your limbs is more than physical. It is the imprint of responsibility, heavy and inescapable. You realize that survival here is not measured simply by speed or skill, but by the quiet endurance of bearing burdens unseen, by carrying forward through the tangled dusk of duty and doubt, until the weight becomes second nature. and the city's pulse, your own. The shock echoes deeply, releasing a mingled fragrance of stone, soil, and crushed herbs tossed hastily aside. You press your cloak tighter, damp and heavy, while the sound of water dripping from tiled roofs mingles with the distant murmur of the forum footsteps, voices, and the persistent clatter of carts making their way through slick alleys. It is the 25th week, and in the freshness of this unexpected rain, you feel the weight of responsibility settle anew, pressing not just on your shoulders, but deep within. You are the man transported across time, a call center worker, turned messenger expert amidst the tangled hierarchies of ancient Rome. Your modern understanding of systems and urgency remains your tool, but here it is shaped by uncertainty and consequence. Each scroll you seal and dispatch carries the echo of decisions born far beyond immediate visibility. Grain shipments delayed, troop movements veiled, alliances forged or broken in whispers behind heavy marble doors. The rain's cool touch sharpens your senses even as it slows the city's pulse, reminding you that survival demands more than swift action. It requires bearing the consequences that follow. Your fingers trace the edges of a freshly inked tablet, feeling the rough wax beneath calloused skin. The dampness clings to your cloak as you map routes in your mind, weighting every choice with the knowledge of lives and futures tethered to your care. Your modern assumptions about control and clarity ripple uneasily here, where messages mutate in the hands of human agents, and secrecy often outweighs speed. You catch the wary glance of a scribe, passing a silent acknowledgement of the fragile trust you carry in this shifting balance. The smell of wet leather and crushed olives fills the air as the markets adjust to the changing weather. Vendors hurrying to shield their goods, while others move with practiced ease under leather awnings. The voices around you soften, but never cease, a persistent reminder of the world's relentless demands. Your body aches, a tapestry of fatigue woven from long hours standing, walking, calculating, deciding. Yet beneath the strain, a new steadiness emerges, an acceptance not just of the tasks, but of their weight. As the rain eases and sun begins to break through heavy clouds, glinting off marble and wet stone, you feel a quiet resolve settle in your chest. Responsibility is no longer an abstract, it's the tangible heft in your hand. The careful threading of messages through a city alive with power and peril. The knowledge you carry shapes worlds unseen. Bearing its cost is a burden and a passage into the fragile steadiness of survival. That pomegranate, as dusk paints the sky blood red above Rome's jagged rooftops. The city breathes beneath a fading sun, voices lowering to murmurs as twilight wraps the forum and its colonnades in long shadows. You feel the rough stone beneath your fingers, cool despite the day's heat, grounding you in this ancient world where power plays out not just in grand speeches, but in whispered promises beneath fading light. It is week 26, and hearts entwine suspended between duty and desire, secrecy and bond, beneath the weight of murmur and oath. You are still a call center worker displaced through time, now a silent witness to, and participant in this realm, where messages are lifelines and alliances, forged as much through trust as through words sealed on wax. Your modern instincts precision, speed, control shift, bending to the rhythms of a world ruled by patience, discretion, and social tides. The notes you handle tonight are not mere data, but tokens of connection, covenants whispered in shadowed halls, fragile as a pomegranate seed's burst, precious as the sunset's last glow. The air hums with a quiet urgency, the rustle of togas, soft footfalls, the gentle shifting of parchments exchanged beneath lowered gazes. Your fingers cradle a scroll carefully sealed, its message carrying the weight of promises that might bind or rend. The scent of crushed olives and dried herbs lingers, a sensory tethered to the earth amid the fragile human drama unfolding. You study faces caught in the flickering torchlight, some flushed with expectancy, others tight with restraint. And you realize your role stretches beyond commerce or routine into the realm of human complexity, where every whispered vow carries the pulse of fate. Your modern assumptions sometimes falter in this delicate dance. Instant communication is impossible. Certainty is a luxury denied by history. You learn to listen not just to words, but to silences, the pregnant pauses, the brushed hands, the unspoken questions hanging between allies. Your expertise molds trust from this ambiguity, threading coordination through currents of secrecy and hope. As the deep red fades into night and stars puncture the velvet sky, you feel the gentle ache of belonging woven through the exhaustion. The city's pulse slows, but never ceases. It carries you forward in its timeless rhythm, a reminder that survival here, as anywhere, rests not only on efficiency, but on the tender, unspoken bonds forged beneath blood-red sunsets and murmured vows. The veins soft and unexpectedly grounding amid the relentless bustle of the forum. Around you, the scents of crushed herbs and freshly baked bread mingle with the sharp tang of sweat and worn leather. The sun bakes the stone beneath your feet, its heat softened just slightly by a gentle breeze stirring dust motes that dance lazily in shafts of light. You feel the weight of both worlds pressing, ancient and modern, as the city's cacophony blends with the echoes of your own memories. It is the 27th week, a moment suspended between the pull of the past and the restless energy of the present. You are that man once tethered to digital screens and precise data, now navigating Rome's labyrinth of voices, shadows, and shifting alliances. Your call center expertise shapes the flow of messages, but it is the nuanced, touch-reading glances, sensing hesitation, interpreting silences, that defines survival here. The gentle contact on your sleeve, a fleeting human connection amid the ceaseless tide, reminds you how much this world depends not just on information, but on trust, on the fragile network woven through shared experience. The air carries whispers of political unrest, mingled with everyday commerce, the clatter of coins exchanged for olives, the low murmur of senators weighing power in quiet corners, the scrape of parchment as messages are hastily sealed. Your fingers trace the edge of a wax seal, hardened and familiar. Yet each mark carries fresh consequence words that might strengthen bonds or shatter alliances. You measure each dispatch not only by speed, but by the delicate balance of risk and discretion. Your modern assumptions flicker uncertainly. The instant clarity you once relied on is replaced by shadows and delays, by human fallibility, and the slow unspooling of events beyond your control. Yet in this tension, you find new rhythms, patterns in unpredictability, coherence in chaos. The past and present clash constantly, but their collision births adaptation and resilience. As the sun dips behind columns etched with the memory of centuries, fatigue settles into your muscles, quiet but persistent. You hold onto that brief contact, the soft brush that connects disparate worlds, as a silent promise. Here, amid stone and dust, survival is less about control than about connection, and every step forward is shaped by the hands that briefly touch yours in passing within the endless flow of time. The lingering tang of roasted grains and damp stone. Torches ignite along the battlements, flickering shadows dancing against the ancient bricks. You stand at the edge of this immense city, caught between two worlds, the restless noise and expectation of the forum behind you, and the quiet dark stretching beyond the walls. It is the 28th week, and you feel the pull of these two realities: modern certainty and ancient mystery tearing at the edges of your resolve. You are the man uprooted from a future of instant communication, now a messenger expert in a time where every message must be hand-carried, every word weighed carefully. The skills you brought, logistics, prioritization, system design, are your most valuable tools. Yet their sharp edges are dulled here by the complexity of human trust and the fragile nature of information in Rome's shifting power dynamics. Behind you, the chatter of merchants fades, replaced by the distant murmur of senators retiring, debates muting under the dark sky. The weight of your role settles heavily in your chest. The parchment in your hand, sealed and folded with care, holds news that could tip the balance of alliances. And yet, You are unsure whether to send it immediately or wait. The calculated efficiency, ingrained from your previous life clashes against a new understanding. Time here is measured in glances, in patience, not in moments. You feel caught between the precision of your past and the fluidity of this world. The sharp scent of olive oil and freshly crushed herbs drifts up from a nearby vendor packing away wares. You touch the wax seal on your message, feeling the tiny imperfections beneath your fingertip, a reminder that even the most carefully made things will bear the marks of human hands. Around you, footsteps echo softly on stone as couriers hurry to their next assignments, each step carrying hopes, fears, and secrets across the city. As darkness deepens, fatigue settles over your limbs, and your breath grows slow and steady. You realize that survival here requires more than mastery of systems or speed. It demands the acceptance of uncertainty, the willingness to sit with questions that neither past nor present fully answer. Standing between two worlds, you sense that the threads you weave today will ripple far beyond the city walls, shaping destinies in ways visible and hidden, immediate and eternal. In cheerful bursts, laughter, sometimes barely contained, rippling through the twisting streets, and weaving a fragile thread of lightness within the city's dense fabric. It is the 29th week, and for the first time in months, you sense something deeper taking root, not just survival, but the slow turn toward belonging. You are the man transported out of time, a call center worker, now enmeshed in a world where messages carry life, honor, and power through parchment and human loyalty. Your days remain shaped by meticulous systems and sharp planning. Yet, amid the dust and noise, you find your modern routines softening, blending with the rhythms of an ancient city lived by touch, trust, and shared moments. These narrow streets, trod by countless generations, begin to feel less alien with each step. The air carries the vibrant scent of fresh figs and spiced wine, and you spot familiar faces, couriers sharing a jest, a scribe offering a brief smile, merchants bartering with practiced ease. You notice your own laughter lifting a rare and unexpected sound that rises with genuine warmth. It reminds you that adaptation is not only a battle of endurance, but also a mosaic of small human connections, moments woven together beneath Rome's towering columns and restless skies. Your modern assumptions still ripple beneath the surface expectations of certainty, speed, control. But the city teaches patience, humility, and the value of pauses between messages, between words. You observe how trust is built not only through reliable delivery, but through gestures, a steady gaze, a shared burden, a smile endured against mounting pressures. These intangible threads become as vital as the scrolls you carry. As twilight descends, the forum softens into quiet shadows, and the air cools with the gentle rhythm of the Adriatic breeze. You pause to rest, feeling the steady pulse of the city beneath your feet, a living, breathing thing that has begun to feel like home. Fatigue laces your muscles, but beneath it lies an unfamiliar lightness, a quiet affirmation that even in a world so distant, belonging is possible. It grows slowly in stones, in laughter, in the rhythms shared by those who carry not just messages, but the fragile, enduring spirit of Rome itself, the one that, as the late afternoon sun softens behind terracotta rooftops. The clatter of feet on stone mingles with low voices, and the distant call of street vendors packing away for the evening. You lean against a cool, rough wallet surface worn smooth by decades of hands and breathe in the mingled smells of dust, olive oil, and fading incense. This moment feels quieter somehow, a fragile stillness grown from the chaos and care that have come to shape your days. It is the 30th week, and beneath the relentless noise of Rome, a quiet sense of home begins to take root. You are still the man from another age, a call center worker shaped by modern urgency, yet learning to move with the rhythms of an ancient city, your hands steady as they fold a wax-sealed scroll, the faint scent of beeswax mingling with the faint tang of ink. Each message you organize threads through a vast and fragile network of power, trust, and influence. Your skills precise, structured, have carved a place for you here. But it is the connections forged through patience and shared burden that give your work meaning. Around you, the day winds down, but the city never fully sleeps. The sharp cry of a hawker fades into the hum of evening chatter, and laughter spills out from a nearby tavern, warm and unguarded. You watch couriers pause briefly to exchange news or a knowing look. Their camaraderie, a reminder that survival depends on more than speed it rests on this fragile web of human ties. The sturdiness of the stone against your back mirrors a new steadiness building within. Your modern assumptions about control and certainty falter here. Instead, you have learned to embrace uncertainty as a constant partner. You observe how messages are lived, rather than simply sent, how their meaning shifts, with tone, timing, and trust. This city, so vast and ancient, has taught you that home is less a place than a thread, woven from countless small acts of care and attention. As night falls and lamps flicker to life along the streets, you feel the gentle fatigue of days spent navigating this complex web. Yet, beneath the weariness, a quiet satisfaction warms you. Survival here is not only about mastering information's flow, but about accepting the chaos and finding peace within it. A fragile but growing home built from connection, resilience, and the steady passage of time. The afternoon sun with a sudden veil of storm. The distant rumble of thunder shivers through the air, mingling with the sharp crack of lightning that splits the graying sky. You feel a cold drop strike your cheek, then another, the soft staccato of rain growing heavier as it soaks the dust-hardened streets of Rome. This is the 31st week, and just as certainty seemed to settle amid familiar rhythms, the sky breaks open an unexpected storm, shattering the calm of days well learned. You are the man caught between two eras, once a call center worker, now a messenger expert in a city where every gust of wind and whisper of rain changes the flow of information. Your hands, steady and practiced, clutch the soaked scrolls pressed against your chest, the ink blurred and fragile beneath the moisture. Your modern system's meticulous plans and precise timing are tested not just by human unpredictability, but by the very elements themselves. Couriers dart through alleys slick with mud, voices rising in sudden urgency as the city pulses to a different beat. The acrid mingling of wet stone and burning torches fills the tumultuous air, while the sharp cries of startled vendors punctuate the rain's relentless crescendo. You catch the glance of a fellow runner grimed, soaked, determined a fleeting bond in the storm's chaotic dance. Trust here feels more vital than ever, threaded through shouts, lost in the downpour, and messages slipped between drenched hands. The very ground beneath your feet threatens to betray you. Stones slick and uneven, but you move with a practiced rhythm, balancing the fragility of parchment and the urgency of news. Your modern assumptions shift uneasily in the face of this relentless storm. The expectation of controlled flow fractures against mud-slick streets, late arrivals, and voices interrupted by thunder's roar. Yet within the chaos, you discover resilience adaptation born not only from knowledge, but from grit and a steady pulse beneath the storm. Each soaked message becomes a testament to survival, a fragile beacon against the sky's fury. As the storm begins to ease, leaving streets awash in shimmering puddles, reflecting the cleared, pale sky, exhaustion rolls through your limbs like a cooling tide. Your breath steadies. Your fingers pry the soaked scrolls open, seeking sense in the softened words. You realize that in this ancient city, as in any life, calm is never assured, and survival demands the willingness to brace against sudden storms leaving. You both humbled and quietly undefeated amid the shifting weather of time. Beneath the Senate, the flickering glow of torches casts wavering silhouettes on rough stone walls, and the distant, muted echo of hurried footsteps seems to come from all directions at once. The air is thick with tension-barely whispered threats and veiled glances that slice sharper than any blade. You feel the scrape of leather against your side as the weight of the city's secrets presses close. This is the 32nd week, And beneath the marble majesty, a darker world stirs, a world where power claws its way in silence, beneath cold steel's gleam. You are the man caught between centuries, your modern skills bent to an ancient art organizing message, flows that thread through couriers and confidants alike, building networks of trust amid suspicion and fear. The precision and logic you once took for granted now must navigate a maze of hidden dangers and shifting loyalties. You know this week that even a single slip-a misdelivered scroll, a careless word, could ignite storms concealed beneath polished facades. Your fingers tighten briefly on a wax-sealed tablet, the rough texture a sharp contrast to the cold iron you glimpse reflected in polished helmets passing through vaulted shadows. The scent of damp stone and burnt wood fills your nostrils. You sense eyes watching from behind corners, judgment and menace hidden beneath carefully composed masks. Your modern certainty warps here. Control feels fragile against the fragile currents of Roman politics and raw human ambition. The muffled clash of swords reaches you for a heartbeat training or threat. You cannot tell, but your heartbeat quickens. Every message you send weaves into this dangerous tapestry, each route plotted with care, each messenger chosen with unspoken caution. The warmth of bustling markets, the laughter exchanged in sunlit squares, feels a world away from these cold underrooms where power courts secrets in silence. As you step into a faintly lit alcove, the tension in your muscles loosens slightly, but the weight remains, a constant shadow. Fatigue weaves through your thoughts along with vigilance. You realize that survival here demands more than efficiency or knowledge. It demands presence, discretion, the resilience to stand firm when shadows collide with steel. And as torchlight flickers low, you understand that the true battle is not just for information, but for trust, safety, and the fragile space where both can exist. The stale scent of dust and cold stone hangs heavy in the air, mingling faintly with the lingering trace of extinguished oil lamps. The room is silent, empty, its walls bare and unyielding, as if the absence itself presses against your skin. Your footsteps echo softly, swallowed almost immediately by the thick stillness that clings like a shroud. In this quiet space, you feel the crushing weight of loss settle deep, not just in your heart, but in the very bones of the city around you. It is the 33rd week, and the absence is a presence itself, shaping every breath. You are still the man displaced from a world filled with constant connection, a call center worker torn from screens and instant replies, now forced to navigate the deliberate slowness of an ancient city where messages depend on trust and flesh. Your knowledge and skills have crafted a fragile space for you here, but no amount of planning or precision can shield against the emptiness left where voices once were friends lost. alliances broken, futures foreclosed. The quiet aches like a wound. Your fingers brush over the cold, empty surface of a wax tablet, long since wiped clean, a mirror to the void inside. Around you, the murmur of Rome's markets and forums feels miles away, replaced by the hollow silence of rooms once filled with whispered plans and shared hopes. The lessons of your modern life efficiency, data analysis offer little solace here, where the real measures are in absence and memory. Outside, the faint rustle of leaves and distant footsteps remind you life moves on, uncaring of grief or pause. Yet here, in these silent halls, you grapple with the reality of mortality woven through daily survival. Your role as messenger expert now feels intertwined with bearing witness to fragility, the fragile bonds between power and loyalty, life and loss. Fatigue folds over your shoulders like a heavy cloak, thick with quiet reflection. You understand that adaptation is not just mastery of systems, but acceptance of impermanence, the shadows cast by absence as much as the light of action. As you stand amid the quiet, you realize the deepest weight you carry is not the burden of messages sent or received, but the profound ache of what has been lost, both in this ancient city and inside yourself. The sharpness is heat presses close, oppressive, licking the rough stone beneath your feet and casting long shadows that dance violently along the walls. Somewhere nearby, distant cries break through the harsh clang of metal on metal, the restless shuffle of hurried feet. You stand at the edge of chaos, the scent of fire and blood heavy in your nostrils. It is the 34th week, and choices hang carved in flame and shadow, bearing the weight of futures teetering on a knife's edge. You are still the man displaced through Time call center worker face to face with a world where messages bleed beyond ink, where every dispatch ripples into life and death. Your modern tools, logic, systems, efficiency intersect uneasily with a reality steeped in blood and raw power. Tonight, the carefully plotted routes and trusted couriers feel fragile against the volatility crackling in the air. Your hands tighten on a smoldering wax seal, the message within carrying the potential to shift allegiances, spark violence, or save lives. The acrid smoke clings to your skin, mixing with the distant clangor of steel and the muffled thuds of bodies pressed close in tense corridors. The scent of sweat, leather, and burning wood weaves through your senses, grounding you in a moment differently weighted from any before. Your mind runs the calculations, not just of time or roots or trust, but of consequence. Each decision becomes a blade's edge, each message a silent command that might alter fate irrevocably. Your modern assumptions of control, predictability, mastery fracture beneath the relentless storm of uncertainty. the rigid lines of data blur here into shifting allegiances and whispered threats. And yet, beneath the chaos, your experience lends a clarity born of survival. The ability to trace patterns in turmoil, to find fleeting openings for passage, to weigh risk with a steady hand. As the fire's glow flickers low and the night deepens, exhaustion knots your bones, but your resolve sharpens. You stand at the intersection where past and present collide, bearing the burden of choices penned in flame and blood. In this moment, you understand that survival is less about certainty and more about embracing the ambiguity, acting, breathing, and holding, steady amid the storm that shapes history, yet to be written. The cold from last night's conflagration. Thick in the open air, between collapsing walls and shattered benches, the smell of fire sharp, relentless, and unforgiving clings to the cracked plaster and scorched earth beneath your feet. Smoke swirls up in pale ribbons, twisting against the slow rise of a weary sun. This is the 35th week, a week marked not by smooth order, but by fractured moments. Survival carved from chaos. You are the man torn from a world of structured systems and instant answers, now forged anew in the crucible of an ancient Rome left raw and trembling beneath the weight of conflict. Your skills' precise mapping, prioritization, rapid response have been battered by fire and shadow. The city's pulse, once a steady beat beneath your steps, now stutters, racing ahead with uncertain tempos. Messages once carried with confident hands now bear new weight. Secrets whispered in haste, routes altered by threat, alliances frayed yet vital. The acrid smoke burns your eyes and throat as you navigate debris-strewn alleys where familiar faces show signs of strain and resolve. The clatter of hurried sandals and muted whispers trace patterns of survival. As couriers adjust to shifting dangers with a mix of fear and hardened determination, your modern assumptions of control, efficiency, clear lines shiver beneath the unpredictability. Yet your mind, trained by years of logic and adaptation, bends like reed in the wind, seeking new paths between battered stones and broken allegiances. A battered wax seal in your hand reminds you that information is fragile and powerful. The messages you dispatch now weave through a city grappling with loss and the fragile hope of renewal. Through cracked windows, you glimpse the slow return of light, the tentative stirrings of daily life pressing against the scars of night. Fatigue anchors your limbs and quiets your racing thoughts. Yet beneath the weariness, a new resilience grows, a knowing that identity is not static, but shaped by fire and shadow, by the choices made when the world breaks open. As Rome breathes in tentative recovery, you carry the hard-earned lesson that survival is both endurance and transformation, and that unbowed strength is born from embracing the fractures within. The apple oils gently with the faint tang of worn leather and faded parchment stacked unevenly on a rough wooden table. You sit close to the hearth, the heat soothing tired muscles and drawing out deep, steady breaths. Outside, the city murmurs distant footsteps, whispered words lost in the night. But here, in the quiet refuge, the presence of silence presses in alongside the flickering light. It is the 36th week, a time of reflection where scars both visible and unseen etch themselves upon your body and mind. You are the man straddling two worlds, a call center worker grappling with the raw edges of ancient Rome, laden with its weight of power, betrayal, and survival. Your hands bear the roughness of handling wax tablets and sealing scrolls, your skin marred by small cuts and burns that echo the pressures you've weathered. Your modern knowledge remains a tool, but it often feels heavy, sometimes inadequate before the unforgiving reality etched in stone and blood around you. The dance of flickering flame reveals faint lines etched on your forearms, reminders of moments when haste collided with consequence, and of nights spent pacing narrow alleys where shadows carried more than just dark. The ache in your limbs is matched by a weariness deeper still, the kind born not just from physical strain, but from the burden of choices that ripple beyond your grasp. Your role as messenger expert intertwines with a fragile thread of humanity, stretching beneath the city's relentless demands. The cool air outside contrasts with the fire's warmth, the faint murmur of the Tiber carrying a soft song of water flowing past ancient stones. Your thoughts trace patterns, roots refined, alliances tested, trust gained and lost. You feel the tension between control and surrender, knowledge and silence, certainty and shadow. The scars you carry are a map of adaptation, each a lesson carved by fire and necessity. As the flames dance lower, exhaustion folds into a quiet acceptance. Survival here is not a victory shouted, but a steady breath held against the cold, an endurance shaped by both visible wounds and those carried silently beneath skin and soul. In this intimate glow, you find the fragile piece of belonging not in triumph, but in the quiet forging of self amid the old stones of Rome. The warmth behind low wooden shelves, shaded in soft amber from flickering oil lamps. Voices murmur in low tones, words carrying weight, hesitation, and the fragile remnants of trust. The smooth texture of a well-worn wax tablet rests cool against your palm as the flicker of candlelight plays across the creased faces, gathered for what must be final conversations. It is the 37th week, and amid this quiet, fragile space within Rome's ancient chambers, you stand on the cusp of an ending felt as deeply in the heart as in the worn stones beneath your feet. You are the man displaced from a world ruled by screens and instant connection, now navigating a city where knowledge travels slowly but shivers with consequence. Your modern profession, that of organizing flow, sifting urgency, managing human networks, maps unexpectedly well onto this ancient maze. Yet every decision lingers longer here, tight with risk and reverence. Scrolls exchanged tonight are vessels of consequence, threads that may hold a fractured city together or tear it further apart. The air is thick with the smell of cumin and myrrh, spices traded from distant lands, their scent a sharp contrast to the dusty silence, whispering of foreign tides and power play. Around you, loyal couriers' faces lined by fatigue exchange fleeting glances, their eyes conveying more than words ever could. Your fingers brush against the fragile edges of a scroll. The wax seals cold and heavy, each one a testament to trust earned and fragile alliances formed. Your modern assumptions of clarity and control flutter uncertainly in these shadows. Information here breathes as much through silence and omission as through ink and script. You observe the delicate balance maintained by those who speak and those who withhold in alehouses, senate halls, and quiet corners where futures are quietly sealed or broken. Your role has become less about efficiency and more about reading subtle patterns between words, gestures, and pauses. As the night deepens, exhaustion curls gently around your muscles and mind, but a steady calm grows beneath it. You carry the weight of these final exchanges, knowing that history tilts on fragile moments like these, carried in the human breath and the turning of a page. Survival and purpose here are not measured solely in answers delivered, but in the care taken, in the weight of quiet conversations beneath the flickering glow of oil lamps and scattered spices. The dry, sun-baked scent of marble warms the air as early morning light breaks over the piazzas, washing pale columns in soft gold. The hush of awakening Rome filters through open courtyards, the faint clatter of sandals echoing on stone, the distant murmur of fountains spilling cool water. You stand beneath towering pillars etched with centuries of names and history, the roughness of carved stone pressing steady beneath your fingers. It is the 38th week, and a quiet shift settles around you, a slow embrace of this new life, balanced between the solidity of marble and the openness of endless Roman skies. You are the man transplanted from a world built on screens and speed, now shaped by the rhythms of ancient Rome, where messages move by hand and trust threads every transaction. Your modern expertise in organizing networks and prioritizing flow has grown into something more nuanced, informed by the weight of human relationships and the complexities of power. Maps once precise now blend with the unpredictable terrain of loyalty, honor, and whispered influence. Here, beneath the towering columns and open skies, you begin to feel the subtle roots of belonging, the scent of freshly ground olives and baked figs drifts from nearby markets, mingling with the scent of warm limestone and ripening grapes stored in earthen jars. Around you, senators in flowing togas stride purposefully, their faces a mosaic of ambition, calculation, and subtle camaraderie. Their trust in your growing network pulses quietly beneath the city's clatter, the soft scrape of a wax seal, the rustle of parchment exchanged discreetly. These small acts form the backbone of the vast, tangled systems you now navigate. Your modern assumptions about control, certainty, instant clarity still flicker, but are tempered by experience. You have come to understand that survival here depends on patience and adaptation, on reading silences as well as words. Each message, each link in the chain, carries the fragile weight of human intent and history's slow turning. As shadows lengthen and the sky blooms with the colors of dusk, weariness settles gently into your bones. Yet, beneath the fatigue lies a steady calma gratitude for the unexpected grace of this ancient city, for the balance found between stone and sky. You realize survival is not a moment of triumph, but a quiet, ongoing dance of presence, resilience, and the slow shaping of a new self within a world, both foreign and deeply alive. The coarse grain of weathered stone presses firmly into your palms as you trace the carved edges of a freshly inscribed tablet. The scent of warm beeswax lingers in the air, blending with the faint hint of damp earth carried by a soft breeze drifting through an open window. Around you, the muted footsteps of senators and scribes echo through the marble hall, their voices hushed but charged with purpose. You feel the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat intertwine with the pulse of this ancient city, a city that now carries traces of your presence in its stone, ink, and memory. It is the 39th week, and you stand at a threshold, aware that your journey here is beginning to settle into something more lasting, a legacy. You are still the man plucked from a world of digital certainty, transplanted into the age of wax seals and whispered politics. Your modern skills as a call center worker organizing flows, managing urgency, decoding complex networks, have evolved into a vital role amidst senators craving speed and secrecy. Each message dispatched is more than information. It is a thread woven into the fabric of power, trust, and survival. You sense how your efforts echo quietly through corridors, leaving faint but indelible marks on Rome's vast, unfolding story. The air carries the robust aroma of crushed olives and fresh parchment, the tangible products of a world built by hands and breath. You see the caretakers of knowledge, scribes dipping styluses in ink, couriers preparing for night runs across the city's cobbles, officials casting sharp glances as they guard their secrets. Your mind, trained in precision and systems, maps these interactions, seeking efficiency without losing the human thread that binds them. Your modern assumptions about control give way to the subtle art of balance between speed and discretion, urgency and patience. The weight of your role settles lightly but persistently on your shoulders. Through the intricate dance of trust and responsibility, you have come to understand that legacy is not only carved on stone or written with ink, but held in the quiet moments where decisions ripple outward, unseen yet powerful. As twilight spills gold across the forum, your breath slows, and fatigue creeps at the edges of awareness, softened by a growing sense of place. In this city of eternal stones and fleeting voices, survival has grown into something rich and complex, an unfolding story where your presence is etched delicately, not just in tasks completed, but in the echoes of care and connection that endure beyond the day's end. The cool stone beneath your bare feet, smooth from centuries of footsteps, grounding you in a quiet moment rarely found amid the eternal motion of Rome. It is the 40th Wicca full cycle, marked by the patient rhythm of the river and the timeless pulse of the city that has slowly become home. You are the man once severed from modern certainty, a call center worker thrust back in time, now settled between past and present, a messenger, expert, weaving your skills through marble halls and bustling streets. Your understanding of order and urgency has evolved into something more intimate, an attunement to human rhythms, a balance between rapid dispatch and knowing when to wait. Here, the flow of information mirrors the river's path, sometimes rushing, sometimes slow, but always onward, carrying the weight of lives, power, and trust. The air is rich with the scent of damp earth and pressed olives, mingled with the faint perfume of fresh herbs drying nearby. Around you, the hum of daily life softens into quiet conversations, the closing of market stalls, footsteps retreating to warm hearths. You watch a courier pause by the riverbank, catching a breath, a small smile breaking through tired eyes. These small moments, the flicker of recognition, the steady pulse of shared purpose, have become the threads binding you deeper into the city's fabric. Your modern assumptions remain, but they have softened no longer strict dictates, but tools shaped by experience and adaptation. You understand that survival is never merely about control or speed. It is about listening, reading, and moving gently within flux. The river teaches patience. The city teaches resilience. Through every message sent and received, you sense a growing harmony between your old self and this new world, each moment folding into the next as naturally as water over stone. As twilight dims and stars begin to prick the vast velvet sky, exhaustion settles sweetly over your muscles. Beneath the weariness, a quiet peace takes root born not from conquest or certainty, but from acceptance and belonging. In the steady flow of the Tiber and the endless sway of Rome's stories, you find a home born of time, choice, and fragile, enduring connection.